Good evening, everyone. How you doing tonight? Well, welcome to my Halloween special for this Halloween. Today, on this Halloween, I'm going to tell you 4 different stories of the most eeriest places that I know of in the Sierra Mountains. Now, these stories I'm going to tell you has to do with cryptology and the paranormal world. And let's see, let me pick which one I want to start with. Oh, by the way, the stories I'm about to tell you are true and factual, and these are places where I have been and experienced some strange, eerie things. And also, Garland and I. So let's get started. What do you think? Let's go. Now, what I'm going to start off with is the first story. The first story takes place in a place called Lake Tahoe, California. And I know a lot of you out there probably know it quite well, and maybe some of you don't. And what Lake Tahoe is, it's an age-old prehistoric volcano, okay? And not only that, it's probably the most deepest place in northern America, if not the whole country. You see, Lake Tahoe is bottomless. That's right, it's bottomless. There is no bottom. No one has ever found the bottom. And years ago, the Navy put a submersible into Lake Tahoe. They wanted to see if there was a bottom and how deep it would be. They went down as deep as they can go. And this kind of submersible they use is the same type they use when one of our submarines go down. And they use these as a rescue vehicle. It's the only one of its kind in the whole world, and it can go deeper than any submersible. And guess what? They found no bottom in Lake Tahoe, and they claim the same. It's got to be bottomless. Some claim that it might even go to the center of the earth. And who knows what lurks in the depths of the waters of Lake Tahoe. But there is a legend and a myth of a creature, a cryptid creature, that lives somewhere in the depths of Lake Tahoe. Now, I know personally myself a certain gentleman that was a friend of mine and my dad's, and he came into our business one day and he proceeded to tell us his story of this one day. He's what he is. He has a charter boat, and he's the captain of the charter boat. His charter boat is 35 feet. So he takes people out on the lake, and he takes them on the charter for fishing, try to catch the big ones. On this day, he tells us, the water wasn't choppy, it was nice like silk. And as he was going across the lake and he entered the center part of the lake, which is the deepest, He was looking down at his sonar screen so he could pick up a school of fish or maybe pick up some big ones. They got some big trout in there. They got some big Mackinaw, lake trout, sturgeon, all kinds of goodies in that lake. Anyhow, he tells us as he's about dead center of the lake, he looks down at his sonar, and then all of a sudden, something from the depths came up and was on the bottom of the keel of this 35-foot fishing boat. And it shocked the hell out of him. He had never seen that before. He's been on this lake for most of his life. Never has he ever seen something this big. And it was right underneath the keel of his boat. He says it was as long as his boat, 35 feet in length. It was as wide as his boat. So this creature, whatever it is, swimming underneath his boat, 35 feet long, and something like about 7 or 8 feet in width. It followed the boat for, he said probably about a minute, maybe a little less. Then it submerged back in the depths. And that, my friends, in that area they call the lake creature of Lake Tahoe. Now the question is for you, do you think it's real? Do you think it does exist? Or maybe something that we don't know anything about or know of exists in the depths of Lake Tahoe? As a researcher, I'll tell you myself, anything is possible. I believe what he witnessed was in fact some type of cryptid creature that we have no clue about. Also, I suspect it may be something from the past. And I mean, way back, millenniums. That's story number one. Story number two. Now we're going to take a little visit to the paranormal world. There is one graveyard that I know in the Sierra Mountains, or basically what we call the foothill of Sierra Mountains, the lower level of the Sierra Mountains. And this particular place is a place where they discovered gold in 1849. James Marshall discovered gold in this area called Coloma, California. It's where they erected the sawmill. It's where they split a vein from the main Coloma River. They split a vein so the water will flow through the sawmill. That is where they found the first vein of gold. James Marshall did. And alias, the gold rush began. Now, during this time period of the gold rush, of course, it was a harsh time period for everybody, these pioneers and all these folks coming from all over the country and all over the world looking for that yellow gold. The problem is, gold creates evil in many ways. Greed, corruption, murder, robbery. And all these I just told you happened in this miners area. And it was all full of evil. Evil of man. For corruption is as evil as you can get. And greed, right along with it. Ho, ho! Talk about messing with the devil. And that's exactly what they did. And that's how the graveyard got created, through terrible, terrible deaths. Some died of TB, what they would call back then consumption. Some died being murdered at another's hands. Claim jumpers. They murdered people and stole their claims for their gold. Robbery. Wells Fargo, hauling gold for the miners. They were heading to Placerville to put it in the bank to deposit it. They never made it out of Forest Hill, California. They were robbed. They never made it out of Coloma because they were robbed. And, of course, murder comes with it. So they caught these outlaws and these bandits. They caught these claim jumpers, and what did they do? They hung them. And they hung them right there, right in the very spots around the graveyard. Now, the graveyard is full of so much evil that man has done and performed on other man. It's what makes it thrive with evil. And mock my words, I've been there on 3 consecutive times, wanting an experience to see if this was true or not. But here's the clincher. You gotta hang around to past midnight. And somewhere between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning is when it happens. I promise you, in fact, I guarantee you, you cannot withstand not even 2 or 3 minutes of being in that graveyard at that time period. You don't have to believe me. If you knew where it was at, you can experience it yourself. The graveyard is right outside where the sawmill was. It's a little bit out of town. That was a miner's camp. It was a miner's town. And that's where the graveyard is. And I'm telling you myself, I've had experiences there. And I've always told you I don't like to go around in the paranormal world. I just don't like to. Not my bag. That is a true story. That graveyard is haunted as hell. And like I said, you could not stand 2 to 3 minutes when that time hits. 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. All that evil comes out. And you could feel it. That's what makes you leave. Now, story number 3. Now this place, very few people even know of it, if any at all. And this particular place was just about 20 miles outside of Forest Hill, California, in a high elevation of the Sierra Mountains. You wouldn't know how to get to this place unless someone showed you the way or made you a map. And this place is called Power Mountain. Now you see, we've done research in that whole area of the Sierras, G and I, for years, a lot of years. We also did research on Power Mountain, only because we had 2 guides that showed us how to get there. Power Mountain is a definite home for these hominin hybrids, Sasquatch. And it's about one of the most eeriest places that you will ever step foot into the forest. Once you enter Power Mountain, you know from the minute you're there, you're being watched. Not by one set of eyes, but several sets of eyes, and you feel it the whole time you're there. You see, in Powder Mountain, there is a Native American Indian tribe that once a year, and once a year only, they have a sacred ceremony on Sasquatch, or what they prefer to call the Watchers of the Forest. I talked to a few tribal members trying to get into the door, so to speak. I wanted to try to get next to the chief, and he could grant me permission where I can do a set-in with the ceremony. No way, Jose. I tried and tried, couldn't convince him. Nobody but nobody outside their clan is allowed there, period. It's very sacred, it's very special to the Maldue Indian tribe. And they do this once a year in private. And from what I understand, it's a sight to see. All the costumes they wear, the dances they do, all to Sasquatch. And it lasts all night long. And some say Sasquatch actually will appear and be seen. So even to this day, nobody is allowed to ever witness that ceremony. I wish we could sit there ourselves. But, so, nobody will ever see that type of ceremony. But man, it sure would have been nice to sit in it and film it and watch it. What a sight that would have been. Powder Mountain. One eerie place. Oh, did Garland and I ever have experiences or interactions there with them? With the hybrids? You better believe we have. And we never even really pushed the envelope when we did research there. We knew when to leave. They will let you know when to leave. That is the story of Powder Mountain. That is true and factual. Now here we go with the biggie. Now this last story, the fourth one. Now this place I'm going to tell you about, in my opinion, definitely in the top 3 of the most eeriest places in the all 400 miles of the Sierra Mountains. And what I mean by that, the Sierra Mountains is, in lengthwise, it's about 410 feet in length. Or excuse me, miles. It's about 400 to 410 miles in length. It's a huge cascade. But this one particular place, it's a little bit below Oregon, not too far from Willows, and just a little bit distance from Bluff Creek. So you're getting an idea where we're at, kind of, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where. But I will say this, the name of the place is called Helena. Helena, California. And I'm telling you, when you're driving to Helena, it's basically out in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, and if you don't see the turnoff to it, you'll go right past it. Now back in Helena, there's a story. There was a guy back in the 1800s at a whiskey town, and he discovered silver. Yep, they didn't discover gold there, it was silver. He came across a huge vein of silver. And with this silver that he dug out of the mine, of course he had his employees, the miners, working the mine. He built a little town, had its own church, its own school. It had buildings erected up for the miners to live in. And so it was just a little tiny town. It's still there today, intact. You go past the town. Now you go an interior. The place that me and G went to, we ended up, it's right at the basin of the Oregon Pass. And anything cryptid besides ones that are not will take this type of pass, the Oregon Pass to the Oregon Basin. And that's how they get around up in those part of the woods. There's one spot there, me and G did research on that for a couple of years. In that area, this one area where I'm getting at, we've done that 3 times. And that was it. For good reasons. I did 2 videos documented this place. One by day, one by night. And it was called Bigfoot Country. The sequel to it was Return to Bigfoot Country. It's on my channel. One day we were there. We started doing some researching in the daytime. You have a creek that comes off this way. And over here is the Trinity River, and there's a vein that comes off the Trinity, and it flows like that. So you got a fork splits. This goes to the Oregon Basin, and this one keeps on ahead and in the opposite direction. We found a deer carcass, a complete whole deer carcass, intact. It struck me kind of funny because I know that's one of their favorite foods, but it looked like it wasn't touched until you looked at it really good. And when I got to one area, the stomach area, it was disemboweled. From the neck to the groin, everything inside was gone. The more I studied the carcass, it wasn't done by no predator that's known there. It wasn't done by any scavengers like coyotes or maybe wolves, because there was no markings of any sort. None. No bite marks, no claw marks, no scratch marks, nothing, nada. And no blood. There's no blood anywhere. We went and researched a little bit longer, and then we called it quits. And we wanted to do it at night. So we went back to camp. And we geared up for the night, got our fire going really good and all that. And we're up to kind of high, see, so you got to kind of hike down. You hike down to where the river is. And when we got down there by the river, and this was also documented, filmed, it's on my channel. And there was footprints of these hybrids submerged, probably about like 5 or 6 inches, if I remember right, under the water. You could see them perfectly clear. Basically, it went to the water, probably drinking water, getting its fill. So we waited till it got a little darker. And it was probably about that point around between 11 and 12 o'clock at night. right across the river was another bank. It's where the creek splits. And we could see something tall walking upright. And he looked like a dark silhouette. And you could hear it breathe. We knew it was no bear. It wasn't anything that naturally would live in the Sierra Mountains. We knew what it was. And then what they do is they start making you really, really nervous. You'll hear them walking up and down the bank. Then you look to the left real quick, then you hear something over here. And they're messing with the thickets and stuff. They're snapping branches. Then you go back over here and you're looking straight ahead again. And you can hear the one that was across. And he's actually walking in the water like he's coming in your direction. Well, we went ahead and quit filming. And we went back up the embankment and went back to the camp. When we got back to the camp, we were ready to have some conversation, stay up a little bit longer and see what else happens. No. These guys won't let you. They won't let you. And I'm telling you, from me to you, me and G are seasoned researchers. We are well seasoned. This place, you can't stay. You can't stay. I'm telling you myself, you can't stay. And what they do is they start coming close into your camp. And I mean close. In that area, the pine is so thick, and the thickets are thick. And you can hear them breathe. You can hear them moving around. And they start getting closer and closer and closer, and finally just, I'll never forget it. Jesus said, we got to get the hell out of here. I don't like this. I got to go. Let's go, Danny. Let's go. I start throwing things in the car. G's putting the campfire out. I make sure that's out really good. And that's about all the time we had to do. We both jumped in the car. By the time we fired the car up, you have to go up a grade. We went up the grade. I lost momentum, and we started sliding back, rolling back down, and when we rode back down, they were right behind us. I'll never forget it. Garland yelled at me, and he said, let's get the fucking hell out of here now. Excuse my French, but that's the way it was. And he said, last word I remember saying, give it gas. And I just gave it gas, and we got the hell out of there. They were right behind us. Me and Garland didn't say a word to each other for about 10, 15 minutes. Then finally we just looked at each other at the same time. You know what we said? I don't think we're coming back here anymore. Garland says, no, not me. I said, yeah, not me either. You see, when you do the kind of work that I do, and what G did, and I've said it 100,000 times, you got to know when to back off. You got to know when, don't push the envelope. If anybody would have pushed the envelope, my guess is you probably never would have been seen again. Something bad would have happened, really bad. That was our third time there, and 3 times in a row they chased us out. And you hear the old saying, third time's the charm? That bullshit. Not this area. Not in Helena. There ain't no third time as a charm. There ain't no given time as a charm. Just don't go in there. These hybrids, and I have came across some really aggressive ones, but these guys take the cake. These guys in that vicinity are the most aggressive hybrids I have ever encountered to this day. And I've been researching and putting everything and documenting everything in the books for about 14 years now, straight up. Don't ever, ever, ever go into Helena, into the area I'm talking about. But you gotta know where the area is at I'm talking about. That I did not say. That is for your own good. That is for anybody's good. It's best keep them gates locked. End of story. That, my friends, is without a doubt the third most scariest place that I know of in the Sierra Mountains. And there you go. And there's your 4 stories. And these are just a few of the places, and there is more. Remember this. The Sierra Mountains is totally prehistoric. It's millions of years old. And who knows what lurks up in the Sierra Mountains. Oh, before I let you go, I gotta check my radio station if you don't mind. I gotta see what's playing real quick. Okay guys, let's go. Hope you like the stories. And a big happy Halloween to everybody out there. Be safe. Enjoy yourself. I'll see you next time. Guys, take care. Have a good one.